So how are you today?
Perfect. And you?
Very well, thank you.
All right.
So we have lots of questions from our viewers today.
All right. Please proceed.
Okay. Are people incarnated on Earth voluntarily or by karma?
Voluntarily.
Okay. And Buddhists say that chanting sutras and mantras can eliminate negative karma in the past and present lives. Is this true, and why?
All right. First of all, before we answer that question, we can perceive that many questions having to do with this subject of karma may have been formulated by people before they were able to hear the monologue that we have delivered. Therefore, many of these questions about karma may still be coming from an old-fashioned definition of what karma is. So we will proceed with any such questions in a manner that will relate them to what we have said in the monologue about the actual definition of karma, and show how all of these questions coming from different viewpoints with respect to the idea of the old-fashioned definition can be turned around into a new understanding, a more modern understanding, a more streamlined understanding, thus rendering many of these questions, in some sense, obsolete. Nevertheless, it will be a good exercise to, as you say, drive home the actual definition with respect to many of these questions that may be coming forward from an out-of-date perspective. The idea, again, of karma is that it does not accumulate. It does not come from other lives. Now, yes, there is such a thing as consequence of choice. Yes, what you put out is what you get back. But as we have said, karma, in its original intended form, simply means action. And therefore, as everything exists simultaneously, it is possible for someone to decide to connect to another simultaneous existence that you would call a past life, even though it exists at the same time as the present one. And they may decide to choose to make a connection to certain experiences in those other people's lives and make them relevant for the theme that a person may be exploring in this life. And in that context, you can say, well, the idea of what choices were made and what was accumulated in terms of consequence to those choices may come from another life, but it isn't the idea of something that happens automatically. It is something that is chosen for the theme of this particular life, connecting energetically to the themes of another simultaneous life. It isn't an automatic thing that accumulates and goes from one lifetime to another, since that other person in that other life isn't you. Now, we can talk about the idea that from the oversoul level, the oversoul can say, well, that is my life, and that is my life, and that is my life. And from that level, there is a kind of a continuity. But we will talk about the oversoul in another transmission. The idea, in terms of answering the question right now at hand, is that no, it doesn't automatically come from another life. And therefore, it is something that, again, to remind you all, is simply a choice that is made to recognize that someone may be out of balance in this life, and karma is the ability to take the actions necessary to bring one back into balance, no matter what themes you may be connecting to from other simultaneous lives going on. It's not something that actually follows you in that sense or accumulates upon you from one life to the next, because you only exist in the now.
Okay, thank you. Did Yeshua ever speak to the idea of karma?
Yes. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Again, the choice being made to stay in an aligned, balanced state, in alignment with all that is. And should you find yourself getting out of alignment with that, Again, remembering that to be of service and to treat others as you would be treated is the actions to be taken with regard to balancing oneself, bringing oneself back into alignment, and thus utilizing the originally intended meaning of karma.
Okay, and if you help kill chickens and ducks by helping your family catch them and kill them, will you also have karma? This person is saying that they had to do that when they were a child and it was a very bad experience for them, and now they're afraid they have negative karma from the death of those animals.
Again, if it is something you can choose now to understand was representative of being out of alignment, even if you were made to do it by your family at that time, it is more the idea of the consequential energy of their choices that they will experience rather than you experiencing it because it was done against your will. So the idea is to simply recognize that it is something you no longer prefer to do and take the actions necessary in your life so that they do not happen that way again. And that will be balancing the idea of the energy and using karma in its more modern format of taking the actions to bring yourself into balance. Do not worry. Do not judge yourself in that sense. You will find that by simply moving forward in your life at this time in the way that you would prefer to, everything will be brought back into balance.
And if a person sacrifices 100,000 people to save 1 billion people, will this person have positive or negative karma?
Again, the idea is to ask oneself why it was necessary to sacrifice those people in the first place. Were you out of balance in bringing yourself into a situation like that, in attracting such a circumstance? And if you were out of balance in doing that, then take the actions necessary to cease doing things like that bring you into those kinds of circumstances and situations, so you will not have to make decisions like that in the future. Thus, then again, taking the actions that bring you back into balance and utilizing the concept of karma in its more modern terminology and its more modern definition.
So in that sense, there's not any real answer. If we saw something happening that would involve stopping the person that's doing the negative act.
Again, you must remember that there are no accidents, and therefore attracting something into your life that would cause you to have a different choice, that would give you the opportunity to make different choices. In other words, give them the opportunity to stop doing negative things and choose more positive ones. Then you have to take into account also the idea that that person is in your life not by accident, and therefore is part of your ability to attract what you need to use karma to rebalance yourself.
Since time doesn't exist, how does karma work?
Well, as we have said, first of all, everything happens in the now. And the idea of utilizing the correct definition of karma is that you take actions in the now that are representative of rebalancing yourself if you feel you are out of balance. And it isn't that the idea of time or the experience of time doesn't exist. It may not really exist mechanically, fundamentally, but it does exist as a side effect, and it is something that you can and do experience. Therefore, still recognizing that everything does exist in the now, using karma in its originally intended definition means you take whatever actions in the present are necessary to bring yourself back into alignment if you feel that you have been out of alignment.
And having to do with karma and free will, can my soul agree to solve karma from another life of my soul in my life now without my consent?
You are your soul. You have to give yourself the consent to balance yourself by taking the actions necessary to do so in this life, in this experience.
So the idea that a negative, I think in the past you may have said that you have to, the soul oversoul balances these things out in terms of between lives even, like one
Yes.
parallel life will balance out what another one is doing. So does the person that's the personality experiencing one of those lives have a choice about it, or is that a decision that was made at another level of itself and it cannot really negate that?
It depends on how connected it is to the theme you are exploring. Because as we have said, the person you are is a theme, is a path. And if it is something you decided to create for yourself, then it cannot be avoided because you established the path as the theme you would explore. However, in general terms, no. Someone doesn't necessarily have to choose to balance the self in any particular life. You can do it in any particular state of being that you happen to be in on the course of your evolution. So it's not absolutely mandatory unless you have made it mandatory for the theme that you chose to be in this life.
So it sounds like the better idea is not to look at things that are happening to you from the perspective of, oh, this is happening because I did this in a past life, or I agreed to do it and balance it out here or something. More the idea of just staying in the present and recognizing the connections you're making to other parallel lives are your choice.
Yes.
Based on what you're attracting and the theme you're playing out.
Yes, and remember, again, because the original definition of karma is action, which happens in the moment, then in a sense, karma is synonymous with free will. You are making the free will choice to take the actions necessary to maintain balance in your life. That's what karma is. It's not something that accumulates from other times, other places. It is not retribution. It is not something that builds up and then gets you back. It is simply in the moment, the clear, free choice, free will recognition that you may be out of balance with who you prefer to be, and using the concept of action and karma and free will to bring yourself into balance by making choices that are more representative of who you prefer to be. That's all there is to it. It is very important and very crucial, which is why we're having this discussion today, for your society to really start to let go of these outdated and old-fashioned definitions of karma. They only anchor you into patterns and habits that aren't actually real. You are creating from a linear perspective a circumstance that doesn't actually exist in truth. The idea, again, is to bring everything back into present, to take responsibility, the ability to respond for the choices you have made and the consequences therefrom, and then decide, again, with your free will, your freedom to choose what actions to take, what karma to use to bring yourself into the balance you say you prefer to exhibit in your life. This requires you to truly let go of these old-fashioned definitions and really pay attention to the new definition we are offering you as a suggestion so that you can be free to make the choices that are true for you and live in the present and take responsibility. And again, this doesn't mean it erases the idea that there are consequences for your choices. Of course there are. Again, what you put out is what you get back. But this doesn't have anything to do with what karma actually is. Karma, again, is simply the ability to take the actions necessary to bring yourself into balance if you believe you are out of balance. That's it. Free yourselves from the outdated definitions that anchor you to the concept of repeating patterns and the idea that you have to accumulate things and somehow discharge them in that way. The minute you choose to balance yourself, then you have used karma appropriately and nothing else accumulates until you're out of balance. And again, you can balance yourself in that moment, in the present. That's karma. And that's it.
And so the idea that if a person has been telling themselves a story about, oh, I did this in a past life or whatever, and a circumstance comes up that again triggers the idea of the story you were telling yourself before about why you have this certain emotional or physical reaction to something.
Yes, the closest analogy, as we said, is that someone may choose to connect to someone else's life that is experiencing certain things that they believe might be appropriate or germane for them to explore in the theme they chose for this life. But it's not something that you did that is coming from that life in the sense that you are building up an accumulation of something that has to be discharged as a judgment against you. It's not coming from outside. The idea is that you may connect to that life having a certain experience because you believe that it will help you explore the theme that gives you the opportunity to continue to take the actions that bring yourself into balance relative to that theme you're connecting to. But you didn't do it because that's not your life. You're just using that life for your own purposes to help you balance in this one.
So time and time again, it brings you back to stay in the present, recognize all the connections that you're making,
Yes.
being made from the present.
Yes.
And that the minute you reinterpret what you were previously believing was something coming from a past life into a choice of whether or not you want to continue to connect with that particular experience, sort of like a library book where you can look at the book, but do you really want to check it out of the library?
Yes.
And experience the consequence of that?
Yes. You can use it in the way it was intended for the connection that was made to learn a lesson, to help you explore a theme. But again, it's not karma in the sense that most people on your planet have been thinking of it for thousands of years. You're not anchored, except again in the anchorings you chose to have to explore a certain theme, but you created those. So if you created those connections for your own purpose of exploration, when you've learned the lesson, you have exhausted the theme, and you have exhausted the reason to keep that connection going.
So this next person's question of, is karma stored in our DNA? Would it be closer to is our theme encoded in our DNA, and the effect of that maybe the stories that we tell ourselves?
Yes. And again, instead of saying, is karma encoded in the DNA, it would be clearer and more appropriate and accurate to say, is the theme I'm exploring encoded in the DNA? And can I use karma as a tool to take the actions to help me explore that theme? Yes. So what we're saying and what we're suggesting is start changing the definition of karma from something that is investing you in a certain idea or pattern and start looking at it as a tool to help you explore the theme and keep you on track with that exploration. It's the theme that is represented in the DNA, not karma.
That's fascinating. So then the idea of something being unchangeable. Okay, my theme is encoded in my DNA. I'm experiencing opportunities to balance certain energies out by the things that I manifest.
Yes.
And so is there any aspect of it that is truly unchangeable, or even your theme is changeable?
The theme, what you have chosen the theme to be. Some people, for different purposes, might choose to have an unchangeable theme for the entire lifetime. But that's not necessarily the case anymore now that you are exploring what consciousness is and the idea of taking responsibility and living in the moment and having accurate definitions of all these concepts and letting go of the fear-based beliefs and outdated definitions. These, in and of themselves, in this day and age, may allow you more flexibility in changing your theme if you have exhausted the original one. You now have the opportunity in this lifetime to have more than one theme. So, allow yourself simply to stay in the present, move forward in acting on the idea of the formula that we have shared with all of you. If you are able to change your theme, if you come to that point, you will recognize it through synchronicity. You will feel the original theme leave you. You will feel some freedom within you and a sense of the ability to choose something different.
It seems like since we have greater communication now with our higher minds, because we understand that relationship within ourselves better, that makes things much more, quote unquote, changeable.
Yes.
Because a negotiation can actually take place.
As long as a lesson is learned, then yes, you are free to choose other themes.
Okay, great. And can you tell us how astrology and karma could be related?
No.
Okay.
Because they're not.
Can you use astrology in any way, though? You could probably use it as a tool to balance your karma. Yeah.
You can use it as a permission slip, like any permission slip, to again allow yourself to use karma to balance yourself. But to say to balance your karma is again misleading. You're not balancing your karma. Karma is the balancing act.
Okay. So, and do we have a choice about our next lifetime?
Yes.
Do we make that choice once we're in spirit, right?
Sometimes you can make it when you're still in physical reality, though you usually allow it to happen when you are in spirit, because there's more flexibility, more awareness, more understanding of what you have learned from the physical experience, and more opportunity to apply that to the next choice you may make.
Okay, and one person was saying that after their parents passed away, 2 cardinal birds came around and made their home directly across from the front door of my house, which was once their parents' house. And so this person feels a real connection with these birds and wants to know, is it possible for the soul of a person to come back as an animal?
No. This is not a reincarnational question. Remember again, bring everything back to the fact that everything exists at the same time. Therefore, that immediately eliminates the idea, mechanically speaking, of reincarnation. You can have it as an experience, as a presentation, for certain reasons, for certain purposes, but that's not what's mechanically happening. However, this can involve another aspect of the oversoul, of which the person is also a part and the animal is also a part. So it may be a presentation of the same oversoul in another form, but that doesn't mean that the person came back as that animal. It's just another aspect of the same oversoul that the person themselves might also have been an extension of. We will go more deeply into this in a future transmission, after the next transmission, when we will discuss the idea of how the oversoul works.
I don't know if this is the right time to ask this question, but the idea of a bird or a flower or a smell being a recognition that a person is communicating with you, that's a completely different idea than the one we were just talking about.
Yes, that is simply a presentation of synchronicity, using a vibration that may awaken you or alert you to the idea that another being in spirit may be attempting to communicate with you.
Right. So rather than the idea of, oh, that's my parents reincarnated, it's more like when you're seeing those birds, they're actually triggering you to know you're having a communication.
It can be that, but as I said, it doesn't necessarily just have to be that. It can actually be not only a message or a signal, but it can actually be an extension of the same oversoul that the person was an extension of too. I'm simply saying that's another option.
Okay. And there's a lot of feelings about staying in your excitement and how to get back into that when you're experiencing a lot of loss or grief or negative things keep happening, or even though you try to stay neutral, those challenges of how do you balance yourself so that you can feel the inspiration again that comes from your excitement.
As we have said, the first thing you must do is accept what's happening, as there being a reason for it happening. So if you're experiencing those challenges, own them and ask yourself what your beliefs have to be in order to generate what you're experiencing, because it can't be otherwise. You can only experience what you believe you can experience. And if you believe you need to experience a challenge in that way, as a loss or something that seems challenging in a negative way, then you must believe that you're getting something out of doing it that way. You must be learning something. So by owning it and by asking yourself, what are you getting out of remaining in that belief system that's generating the experience in this particular way, then you can, with honesty, go deeper into your self-investigation. Remember, know thyself. And the deeper you go, into why you have a belief that is making you experience these things, why you're holding on to that belief to keep experiencing things in that way, will illuminate what it is you think you're getting out of doing that, why you won't let it go, and it can give you much deeper insight into how to free yourself of it by realizing that by letting it go, you may actually have a much stronger connection and a much more positive experience of what it is you're exploring as a relationship to other people or other places or other things.
So when negative emotions come up when someone's following their excitement, such as feeling very intense anxiety and insecurity.
Remember, that's what's supposed to happen. The reflective mirror tool in your passion brings your attention to belief systems within you that are out of alignment with your passion. So the fact that those things come up should excite you. That's part of your excitement, because now you have something to work with, and now you can realize that you can let something go that doesn't serve you. And that adds to the energy and momentum of your passion. So it's all right to feel those things and own them, but recognize that's why they come up, because they're bringing your attention to something you didn't realize was there. And now that gives you the opportunity to work with it and let it go. And that is an exciting prospect. Now then, we move forward in the understanding of your meditation, and we ask you in a relaxed way, with whatever accompaniments you wish of light and sound, to focus on the understanding and the definition of karma as we have presented it to you, so that you do no longer experience it as you breathe into yourselves more and more deeply and relax and let go of old definitions, old ideas of punishment, because all that is does not punish. Old ideas of retribution, for there is no retribution in spirit. Old ideas of deserving pain, for there is no pain in the world to come. Allow that to become this world, and allow yourselves to simply recognize karma as a gift given to you, as a corrective measure, as a choice to create actions, which is its meaning originally and can become its meaning again. Action. Actions that realign you with your true self, your true vibration, and bring with it the ability and the gift to see and have the discernment to perceive when you are out of alignment with your true self more clearly, to recognize the difference between true passion and excitement and the difference between that and anxiety and fear, and to go forward, not backwards, and to use karma to your advantage as a course corrector, as a guide, to take the actions necessary, to take the actions that allow you to let go of the fear, to take the actions that bring you back into alignment with your true self, who you really know yourself to be at your core, your essential being. Breathe into that. Bring karma into the present. Not from the past, not about the future, but in the now. Karma only exists now. It's not about what happened in a past life, for even though that can be an experience, mechanically there is no such thing as the past. Everything exists here and now, and so does karma. So do the actions you can take every day, here and now, to make sure you are in alignment with who you truly prefer to be. To look around for the opportunities of actions that you can take to be of service, to be of assistance, to be a positive living example of what others can choose for themselves without you needing them to do so. Be of service in that way. Be the essence of the meaning of our word aveo, in service. For I am in service to you, and you can be in service to all by being yourself and living in a free way that you choose what you prefer and use karma to your advantage in the moment and not associate it with the past or the future. It is a living mechanism in the present to bring yourself back into alignment. That is your karma. Use it wisely, use it well, use it consciously. This will connect into the next transmission where we describe the idea of how you use your conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind as well, and how they work together in the present to create your reality experience, and how they work with your beliefs to do so. So we prepare you for that by allowing you to change your definition and your beliefs about what karma means and bring it fully into the present, so you can have a much clearer understanding of how your consciousness and your physical mind works, and so that you can more clearly and consciously navigate yourself in physical reality as an experience with clarity and love and freedom and joy. Karma is here and now. Allow yourselves to breathe it in and relax into the grace of seeing yourselves as you truly are, and letting go of those things that are not you, letting go of those fears, those definitions that do not serve you, looking for the ways in which everything can serve you. Everything, without exception, can serve you. If you remain in that state of grace, that state of positive karma, take the actions, have the definitions, make the choices that bring you into the present and allow you to know that that's where you truly live, in the here and the now. That's your karma. Breathe it in, take it in, and make it your own. We thank you for allowing us to share all of this with you this day. Our unconditional love to you all. Welcome home and pleasant dreams. Good day.
I want to say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? Yeah. I will take that as okay. We thank you, each and every one of you individually, all of you together collectively, for the co-creation of this interaction. Once again, each and every time your civilization interacts with our civilization in this way, it creates a link, a bridge, and a third reality in which we can, one day, interact more and more closely, more and more immediately. So we thank you for the co-creation of this new paradigm, this new reality in which we can all together learn to play. This day of your time, this transmission will begin with a discussion of imagination. Now, we have talked about imagination many times. We would like to take the concept a little bit further this day of your time. We have reminded you of the synchronicity in many of the words that exist in various languages on your planet. We understand the channel's language is English, and in this context, we point out again, as many of you are already familiar with, the synchronicity of the word imagination. Magi, nation. A nation of magicians is what you are. And you can use your imagination to create the kind of nation, the kind of world that you prefer. Imagination is an extremely powerful tool, and we will discuss in what ways this is so, and how you can apply your imagination in very powerful ways to allow and to create the kinds of changes that you would prefer to represent within your lives, individually, and again, within your lives, collectively, globally. And as you thus then move out into the cosmos, into the stars, and join with us eventually, you will find imagination is going to play a very key role in your ability to do that. So let us begin. We will remind you, first of all, that we have talked about the idea that imagination is the conduit between your higher mind and your physical mind. It is the pipeline through which your higher mind communicates with you, and through which, in receiving that communication, you can then, as physical beings, as physical personalities, apply the information, the imagination that comes from higher mind, the communication, into your physical lives, to alter them, to change them in ways that are more reflective of your passion, your excitement, your joy, your preference, or not. It is up to you to use this positively or negatively. It is up to you. But imagination is the key to allow an alignment to occur. And if you are willing to use your imagination without filtering the communication from your higher mind through belief systems that contain fear, then you will find that the outcome can always be a positive one, and you can always amplify and magnify that in any direction, in any area of your lives whatsoever, no matter what. Higher mind, again, I remind you, has the far-seeing point of view. It stands on the mountaintop. It can see all the pathways you could possibly take in life, and it guides you toward the path of least resistance, the path that is most truly you. As we have said many times, the vibration of excitement, the vibration of passion is what functions like the compass needle. It is your magnetic north to your true self. By following your passion, by following your excitement, by pointing the needle in that direction and that direction only, you will always be completely, purely, squarely on the path that is most truly you, your core, true, natural self. Your imagination is the conduit through which your higher mind can guide you in this very easily, if you allow it to be effortless, which you can. Physical mind, then, chooses in physical reality various ideas of how to apply these ideas coming from the higher mind in ways that are also pleasing to the physical being that you are, the physical personality that you are, and you learn to work in concert as a whole being, as a whole person with the higher mind. For if the physical mind thinks that it must take on the job of figuring everything out, how is this going to happen? How can I make this happen? How can I bring everything together to get this to happen? If the physical mind thinks that it must be the only one doing that job, it is going to be burdened, it is going to be weighed down, it is going to be tired. Because the physical mind is not designed to know how things will happen. The physical mind is only designed to know how things have happened. The idea is thus then to trust the higher mind to let you know that if the higher mind is sending you information that pushes you in the direction of your passion, and you trust that, what the higher mind is telling you is that by following your passion, the how will be taken care of, because the higher mind can see how you're going to get there, and the translation of that how through the imagination is the physical sensation of excitement, joy, passion, and love. That's how the higher mind speaks to the physical mind through the conduit of imagination, with those feelings, those vibrations, those energies, those pictures. So the physical mind can learn to relax and not feel it has to carry all the weight of the world on its shoulders for figuring out exactly how everything's going to come into manifestation in its life. You can allow the higher mind to guide you in that, and you can relax and ride the wave of the energy that the higher mind sends through the imagination, and allow things to unfold in a synchronous manner, in an effortless, joyful, creative, loving manner. And thus then find yourself flowing through life. And even if the path that it leads you down may seem to be going left, going right, going here, going there, going where you least expected it to go, that is cause for celebration. Because as we say in our world, anytime something unexpected comes up, you want to say congratulations. Now you know you're really following your joy and allowing your life to unfold synchronously in front of you without it being so planned out, so rigidized, so insisting that it must be one way or another. Because if you really are open to the idea of what your higher mind can do through your imagination, it will almost always bring you something that is even more exciting than the physical mind was capable of actually picturing. So when you insist that it must be a certain way, you're actually limiting the ways in which it could actually come to you that might even be more exciting than you are actually capable of imagining. But imagination can act as the guide, the initial visualization mechanism to at least give you a bearing, give you a heading. And you can use that picture as a symbol to represent the energy, to symbolize the energy of the reality that is representative of your highest joy, of who you wish to be. But if you rigidize that picture and insist that it must turn out that way, then you are actually fighting against the flow of your higher mind. If you relax that it could come to you in another way and that what you're picturing is just a representation of that reality, then the energy can flow and you may find yourself winding up in a situation that is even more wildly fantastic than you were at first capable of picturing. Now, here is something else that is very important to understand about what imagination is. First of all, of course, understand it is a state of being. And any state of being causes certain kinds of states to exist in the neurology of your brain. When you are in an imaginative, creative state, your brain, the neurology, the way the electrical pathways flow will be different than any other state. Here is something that is important to understand. When you are born in physical reality, the first moment that you crystallize, shall we say, your spirit into the physical matrix, it crystallizes a kind of pattern within you that represents the idea of your soul agreement, your relationship to your higher self at that moment. What happens to it from there on will depend upon a lot of things, including input from your parents, society, so on and so forth. But that core agreement, that core relationship will always exist. So when you go through life, and you've lived several years, and maybe you find yourself becoming in your older age a little bit confused, a little bit forgetful of where you're going, why you came here, so on and so forth, looking for your joy, looking for your passion, going into the state where you allow yourself to communicate with higher mind through your imagination will actually always bring you back to your 0 moment agreement of when you were born. It will actually restructure the neurological pathways of the brain back to that childlike moment where anything is possible. That's what's key to understand about the function of imagination in your physical reality. It's your reset button. So when you find yourself feeling lost, feeling confused, feeling at odds, go into your imagination. Open up the conduit of communion between your physical mind and higher mind and push the reset button. Go back to the 0 point. Let the neurological pathways realign, and then in that state, open up to the infinite possibilities and the choices you have made, and go forward from there afresh, anew, reinvigorated, as a new persona. Because again, remember, When you make any change, you have made a total change. And that is what imagination allows you to do. Realign yourself in such a way in bringing yourself back to a kind of 0 point that you can then step out from there on any path you really so desire that is representative of your highest passion. And know that when you do so, you really have cleaned the slate. And anything that may have seemed to be an issue that was an obstacle or a complication in your life formerly, at that moment of zeroing yourself out, is actually no longer there. Now, you can co-create it again. You can say, oh, it's still there. I still have to get over this. I still have to deal with this. You can do that. If that's your process, that's fine. I am not telling you how to live your life. If you want to include complications and misery in your life, please go ahead. I will not stop you, because if that's what gives you quote-unquote joy, then by all means go ahead and involve yourself in that idea of struggle. If that's your process, love it. And then you'll get the most out of it. What I am simply saying is you do not have to do that. You actually have a choice. And in that moment that you zero yourself out with your imagination and allow your neurology to realign, recrystallize back to that first moment, that first agreement, when you were a child, a newborn child, and step forward in that state of being, then all bets are off, as you say. You really have lost your history. You really only live in the present in that moment. And what you do from that moment forward is up to you. And it will be, it can be your reality completely, wholly, totally. Now, we have talked about the idea of imagination in context to the concept of all that is. The universe, if you will, the multiverse, creation in totality. Whatever you wish to label it, it doesn't matter. And then we spoke about the idea of understanding this. You cannot imagine non-existence. Go ahead, I'll give you a minute, try it out. There, you see? Couldn't do it. Because the point is that even if you could, by definition, imagining non-existence would be non-experiential. Therefore, how would you know you had done it? You would have no experience of it. And in having no experience of it, in that context, it isn't relevant. It doesn't exist. Therefore, conversely, anything, everything that you can imagine is somewhere, somewhen, somehow a reality, a real reality. It may not necessarily be relevant to the reality you are creating on earth, but it is nevertheless real in some parallel dimension, some other reality, whatever you wish to label it. Whatever you imagine is also happening simultaneously with the reality that you are actually physically experiencing. So if in your imagination you do imagine you have 3 arms, wings, 4 eyes, and are purple, there is a reality where such a being, such a version of your soul actually does exist. It may not ever cross paths with you on earth. You may never know that until you go to higher planes where you can see more of your soul's creation, and then you will go, oh yeah, there I am. Doing that thing in that universe with that kind of a form, for that kind of a reason, because that's a symbol and a reflection of that kind of path and that kind of an experience. So anything you imagine is, in fact, tapping into some other simultaneously coexistent real reality. Yes, really, really real. Just as real as you feel your physical reality is for you. Now, the idea, of course, is one of discernment. It is real, but is it relevant to your reality? The idea of following your joy, following your passion, it's not to say you cannot create that here, but it is highly improbable Not impossible, but highly improbable based on the agreement you made to participate in the co-created mass consensus reality of Earth at this point in space-time, as you have created it. Strange things can happen on your planet, and strange things have and always will. And some of them are the confluence of someone actually fully letting go of any assumptions and expectations about what this reality has to be, opening the door a little wider than normal, and perhaps suddenly, there you go, something pops in that may not normally be relevant to your reality, and suddenly a legend is born, a myth is born. Oh, did you know there was such a creature, such a thing, such a happening? Well, those things do happen. They may pop in, they may pop out, and never be seen again. That doesn't mean they weren't real at that moment. It may have simply been only, in a sense, I'll put it this way, a momentary defocusing, a momentary relaxing of your agreement, but it also may be part of your agreement in the sense of presenting those kinds of ideas and realities to yourself so that you can play off them, reflect off them, and see how it might apply to some aspect of your agreement here in this reality. Nothing happens by accident. It can all be played off of. It's all an orchestration. All we are simply saying is, it's also a matter of discernment as to what works for you. And if you use your imagination in this way and apply these things in a manner that will work for you based on your understanding of your true self and the agreement that you made to be your true self in this particular modality, in this particular reality, then you can stay aligned and harmonious with your higher self and understand what it is you can achieve in this reality. You have far fewer limitations in this reality than you think, even within the parameters of the limitations you have imposed upon yourself for what is possible in this reality, or at least what is probable. The idea is that anything that represents your true joy, anything that represents your true self, your true passion, is manifestable. Is manifestable. But it is also about you paying attention to what is actually representative of your passion and not representative of your anxiety that is simply being called your passion. It requires discernment on your part to know whether you're coming from fear or true joy, and not labeling things that are representative of your fear as excitement when they actually in fact are not, but also vice versa. Not labeling your joy as a fear when it actually is representative of your true path. Because many people on your planet will stay away from the thing that really excites them the most because they have put a label of fear on it, or society has taught them to do so. This again is where your imagination can, in a sense, come to the rescue. Go back to your 0 point, press your reset button, and go, wait a minute. Who am I at the core? Who do I imagine myself to really be? What kind of person am I passionate about being? What kind of life am I passionate about living? In your imagination, you can see all those things, and that's why I have said many, many times what's important. Whether it becomes literally manifest as you see it in your imagination or not, what's important for communication and harmonization between the physical mind and higher mind is that when you do get a picture in your imagination of who you prefer to be, what you prefer to be doing, where you prefer to be doing it, how you prefer to be doing it, when you see that, all you really have to do is mimic it, mirror it, act it out as best as you can on all levels of your life. All you have to do is be like that person in your mind's eye. Do things the way he or she would do it. And then when you start doing things the way he or she would do it, you will change your vibration to the vibration that is representative of that life. And when you shift your vibration to the representation of that life, you will start to synchronistically have that life. All the things that are representative of what that you would have will come in. So that's how to use your imagination as an actual tool, an actual application tool. The idea being that when you open up to your imagination, you reset yourself, take yourself back to 0. Then you create the picture that is you, that you prefer to be. Then you act like it. You behave like it. And then you have 1, 2, 3, the whole manifestation process right there. 1, 2, 3. Let yourself reset using your imagination. Let yourself create using your imagination. Let yourself act it out using your imagination. And your imagination, thus then used in the 1, 2, 3 way, will allow you to become the magician that you are, and you will become a nation of magi. Do you understand this? All right. Now, we will, as this transmission goes on, of course, investigate some of these concepts a little bit more deeply and a little bit more personally as you engage us in questions and discussions. And just the thing to keep in mind while this is going on is that no matter how physical this interaction seems, it's also all happening in your imagination. Because remember, physical reality isn't by itself real, except the experience of it is. Physical reality and everything you experience in your life is created, whether you know it or not, whether you're conscious of it or not, through what you imagine your reality to be. Your beliefs, obviously, your definitions obviously play a part. Your emotions play a part. Your thoughts play a part. But it is your beliefs, your emotions, and your thoughts that all wrap together into the triangle of your personality prism, and once it locks together in that triangle is the template of the imagination that activates your reality. That's the conduit through which you send those beliefs, definitions, emotions, and thoughts up to the realm of the higher self, where manifestation is immediate and instantaneous, and energy is all pervasive. Then the higher self, the higher mind, sends that thought, reflects it back through the imagination to the physical mind, and gives it to you in terms of the passion of your true self, so that by simply acting on it, by simply following your passion, the higher self lets you know, this is the wish you have sent me, translated into the language of the higher mind. Do it. Act it out. Act it out, and you will be speaking the language of the higher mind. You will be blended and harmonized as the physical mind and a higher mind into one holistic being, one holistic person that can then reflect that relationship into manifestations in an imagination reality that is being created by you. It is just a mirror. That's all it is. It's just reflecting back what you imagine it can be. That's all it is. So, as we said, with that in mind, we would invite you, in whatever way, shape, or form you imagine you would like to do it, to share with your questions or statements.